Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you are sitting there planning your next year. You're looking at the calendar for 2026, thinking about where to travel, maybe a conference, maybe just a vacation. It feels like a simple decision, right?
It usually does. Mountains or beach, hotel or rental.
But underneath that simple planning, the tectonic plates of the entire world are shifting. We aren't just talking about flight prices going up.
No, we're finding some new trendy spot. This is deeper.
We are talking about high-tech anxiety, massive economic crises in the heart of Europe, and, well, eating pine buds in a forest.
It sounds like a strange mix, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that is exactly what we are diving into today.
It is.
We're looking at a sort of state of the union for the travel and tourism industry as we pivot from late 2025 into 2026.
Exactly. And our source material for today is absolute gold. We are doing a deep dive into the Dunakavicsok podcast, specifically their 43rd episode.
Recorded just recently in December 2025.
And the hosts, Kovács Balázs is reporting from Vienna and Nagy-Szász István from Budapest, basically laid out a roadmap for what they call new tourism.
And new tourism isn't just a marketing buzzword here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the mission of this deep dive.
Right.
We are going to explore how this whole concept is moving from theory to, actual reality. It's about the intersection of AI anxiety, the grounding power of nature.
And some very harsh economic realities facing Central Europe right now. So get ready to connect some dots you probably didn't think were connected. We've got a conference where everyone has the exact same name.
An astronaut's view of the planet.
And the price of a hotel room in Vienna. So where do we even start with a mix like that?
Well, let's start with movement. Actual physical movement.
Okay.
We need to look at the EuroVelo Conference that happened at Lake Balaton in Hungary back in late September 2025.
Right, Lake Balaton. Now, usually when I hear cycling conference, I think of a small group of enthusiasts maybe debating tire pressure.
Sure.
But looking at the source material, this wasn't that at all.
Not at all. The stats here are pretty impressive. We're talking about 350 participants.
From how many countries?
From 31 countries. It was actually the first time Hungary hosted this, and the vibe was very professional. This was an industry summit.
Not a hobbyist meetup.
Exactly. And the visual that really jumped out at me from the report was the fleet. They didn't just talk about bikes. They showed them.
What do you mean?
They showcased a fleet of 1,000 high-quality e-bikes provided by the Balaton Bike 365 project.
1,000.
1,000. That signals that this isn't a niche anymore. When you have 1,000 e-bikes ready to roll, you are building industrial-scale infrastructure.
That's a serious statement. But there was a specific quote from the conference that really stuck with me.
What was that?
It was, where it's good to cycle, it's good to live.
That is the key insight. It reframes tourism completely.
How so?
It suggests that cycling infrastructure isn't just for the visitor to have a nice afternoon. It's a metric for the livability of the destination itself.
Right, because if you build a place where you can cycle safely and happily, you've inadvertently built a place where people actually want to exist.
Precisely. Historically, tourism infrastructure was often built for the tourist, sometimes at the expense of the local.
Think giant parking lots for tour buses.
Exactly. This flips the script. It says the resident experience and the tourist experience are converging.
And speaking of existing in a place, the host shared this really poetic aha moment from the conference.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, the weather had been gloomy all day, just gray and miserable. And then the group gathers at the Tiffany ferry crossing.
And the sun breaks through.
Exactly. The classic miracle moment. The clouds part, the sun hits the water, and it symbolized this feeling that the region was finally ready for the international stage.
It's a nice metaphor. Cycling tourism is shifting from a niche activity to a primary way of living a destination.
Not just visiting it.
You aren't behind glass in a bus. You are exposed to the elements, the people, the landscape.
But then we have to make a pretty sharp pivot here.
We do.
Because while people are out there happily cycling on e-bikes, there was a much darker, or at least more anxious conversation happening nearby.
At the Budapest Tourism Summit in October.
Yeah, this is where we transition from the physical to the intellectual,
Right.
and maybe the existential.
Oh, sure. The summit featured a presentation by Omar Hatamle, the former AI director at NASA. And he laid out a progression for artificial intelligence that is, well, sobering is the polite way to put it.
I read through his points in the notes, and it definitely gave me pause. He broke it down into 3 phases of evolution, right?
Correct. Phase 1 is where we are now, mostly. Humans use AI as assistants.
Okay, we ask it to draft an email, plan an itinerary, that sort of thing.
We are the masters. The machine is the tool.
That feels comfortable. That's manageable.
Then comes phase 2. This is when AI starts using humans as assistants.
What does that look like?
Think about algorithmic management, an app telling a delivery driver where to go, or a system prompting a human to verify a data point. The machine directs the workflow.
And the human executes the task. That's already happening in the gig economy, isn't it?
It is. But phase 3, that's the one that keeps people up at night.
Let me guess.
That's when AI uses AI as assistants.
The closed loop.
Exactly. The machines communicate, assign tasks, execute, and iterate without any human intervention.
Yeah.
We are just bystanders.
That is the nightmare scenario for a lot of people. And according to the source material, that anxiety was palpable at the summit.
Yeah, they talked about this intense FOMO fear of missing out in the tech world right now.
I can imagine.
It's intense. The development is moving so fast that people are literally scared to take a lunch break.
You're kidding.
No. They feel that if they step away for an hour, they might miss a paradigm shift. By the time they get back with their sandwich, the world has changed.
That sounds absolutely exhausting. It's not sustainable.
It isn't. And it raises a really important question, which the summit addressed. The conversation has shifted from what can tech do
to what should it do?
Exactly, the ethical void. If we rely solely on AI for answers, what happens to human critical thinking?
We're outsourcing our judgment.
Are we building the guardrails to keep these things aligned with human values?
It's a huge question. But thankfully, the summit didn't just leave everyone in a panic spiral.
No, they brought in a counterbalance.
And I love this. They brought in an astronaut, Tibor Kapu.
This was a brilliant move by the organizers. Tibor Kapu spoke about the overview effect.
I've heard of this. It's that moment where you realize how tiny and fragile everything is, right?
Exactly. It's a well-documented cognitive shift. When you see the planet as a single blue marble against the black void, you realize the system is finite. It's fragile.
And borders disappear.
Borders disappear. Problems that seem huge on the ground look very small from that distance.
So applying that to tourism, it's about seeing the destination not just as a collection of hotels and restaurants,
but as a living ecosystem. Precisely. It's the antidote to the AI anxiety. AI is about infinite speed and data. The overview effect is about connection and perspective. It reminds the industry that we aren't just managing data points.
We're managing a living world.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the joy of cycling and the cosmic perspective of astronauts, but now we have to land the spaceship.
And unfortunately, we are landing it right in the middle of a budget meeting in Vienna.
The hard cash reality check.
Yes, this was at the Visitor Economy Forum in Vienna in November 2025. And the mood here was very different.
Not euphoric, I take it.
No, not at all. It was described as routine, but with a lot of tension. And the source of that tension is pretty clear. Money.
Or the lack of it.
Vienna is facing a massive budget deficit. The projections are alarming. If left unchecked, the deficit could hit 150% of the budget by 2030.
Wow.
So the city needs revenue, and they are looking at their cash cow.
Tourism. They're tapping the tourists.
They are. They made a controversial decision to raise the local tourism tax, the Ortstax.
And how much is that going up?
It's currently at 3.2% of the hotel bill. In July 2026, it jumps to 5%.
Okay, that's a big jump.
And the plan is to eventually push it to 8%.
8%? Wow. Going from 3.2% to 8% is huge. That isn't just a rounding error on a hotel bill.
It is not. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not just about Vienna managing its books. There was a keynote speech by a German economist, Jens Südekum, that apparently really shook the room.
What was his message?
He gave a warning about deindustrialization.
Deindustrialization. In Germany. That's the engine of Europe. Germany is industry.
And the engine is sputtering. He presented stats showing that sectors like steel and electronics in Germany were down 17% in a single year.
17%. That is a collapse, not a dip.
It is significant. And his argument was that Germany, and by extension the region, can no longer rely on exports to the U.S. or China.
Because of trade wars and tariffs?
Right. So the implication is that they must rely on internal growth sectors.
And one of the few sectors that can still grow internally is tourism.
Exactly. Tourism isn't just nice to have anymore. It's becoming a lifeboat for the economy. As the factories slow down, the service sector has to pick up the slack.
So Vienna's strategy isn't to just flood the city with more people.
No, because they have another problem. Costs are way up. Prices in Austria have risen 48% since 2019.
So they're losing price competitiveness.
They are. So their response is something they call optimum tourism.
Which means?
It means focusing entirely on luxury and high-value guests. If you can't be the cheapest, you have to be the most premium.
Value over volume.
They want fewer tourists, but tourists who are willing to pay that 8% tax without blinking.
It makes sense economically, but it definitely changes the vibe of a city. It risks becoming a playground for the wealthy.
It does. And it forces the industry to look at sustainability not just as a green thing, but as a survival mechanism.
To attract those high-value guests, you need to offer a high-value environment.
You got it.
Which brings us to our next segment. Sustainability on the ground. Because it's easy to talk about being green at a conference, but what are they actually doing?
Well, the sources mention the MICE sector. That's meetings, incentives, conferences, exhibitions.
Okay.
In Hungary, they've introduced the Merez Code. It's a new sustainability handbook based on global GSTC standards.
I noticed in the notes that they are gamifying it. I love that approach.
It's smart. It's not just turn off the lights. It's about knowing your suppliers, saving energy, and making it a challenge rather than a chore.
Right.
But beyond the corporate stuff, there's this fascinating concept called people-powered tourism. This is an Interreg Danube project.
And the goal is what? To reduce overcrowding?
Basically, yeah, diverting tourists to less visited neighborhoods, but not by forcing them or banning them from the center.
By luring them with grandmas.
Essentially, yes. They highlighted examples like grannies in Vienna baking cakes for tourists.
That's amazing.
It creates social cohesion. You aren't just buying a cake. You're having a cultural exchange with a local senior in a neighborhood you might never have visited otherwise.
That is fantastic. So much more rewarding than standing in a queue at a museum. And they also mentioned pop-up hotels.
Yes. Taking dead retail space, empty shops in quieter neighborhoods and turning them into accommodation, it revitalizes the street and spreads the economic impact.
I love that. It feels very human. And speaking of human and weird, we have to talk about the little colorful stories from the episode.
Ah, yes.
These are the things that really stick in your brain. First up, the edible forest.
The lighthearted. This is led by a forester named Gyula Butso. And you're right, this isn't just hiking, it's dinner.
They describe a dinner at Endrezi Garden that featured things like pine bud tonic.
Pine bud tonic, nettle seeds, and forest consommé.
It sounds a bit hipster, doesn't it?
A little, but it taps into that primal hunter-gatherer instinct. Modern life is so detached from the source of our food.
That's true.
Going into a forest and realizing, oh, I can eat that pine tree, creates a very deep, visceral connection to nature.
I'd try the pine bud tonic for sure. Why not? But here is the story that absolutely won the episode for me.
I think I know where you're going.
The Kovács Balázs Conference.
This is a gem.
So just to be clear for our listener, one of the podcast hosts from our source material is named Kovács Balázs, but this story is about a different Kovács Balázs.
Right, a scientist who realized that his name is incredibly common. In Hungary, Kovács is like Smith.
Okay.
He was trying to track his citations and realized there were just too many people named Kovács Balázs publishing papers. He couldn't figure out which work was his.
So logically, instead of changing his name or using a middle initial, he organizes a conference.
Exclusively for people named Kovács Balázs.
It sounds like a joke, but 250 people showed up.
All named Kovács Balázs. Well, plus one Kovács Balázs Doratya.
And these weren't just random guys from the street. Who are the speakers?
They had 20 speakers. A quine physicist, cardiologist, a peace researcher.
All sharing the same name. That is incredible. A room full of 250 people with the same name, listening to a quantum physicist with their name.
But here's the lesson, and it ties back to our theme of new tourism.
What's the connection?
Despite coming from totally different fields, they felt an instant community. It reinforces the idea that the attraction isn't the sightseeing, the attraction is the connection.
Meeting people.
Even if the only thing you have in common is your name.
It's the ultimate icebreaker. Hi, I'm Balázs. Me too. Great, let's talk physics.
Exactly. It strips away the pretense.
Before we wrap up, we need to quickly touch on how people are physically getting to these forests and conferences.
What infrastructure?
Because while we talked about bikes earlier, there was a big update on railways.
Yes, the railway renaissance in Austria continues. The private rail company Westbahn is making moves.
What are they doing?
They are buying Chinese trains to enable a half-hourly schedule between Vienna and the West.
Chinese trains in Austria. That's interesting geopolitically.
It is, and it signals how global the supply chain is. But for the traveler, it just means frequency. If a train leaves every 30 minutes, you don't need a schedule, you just show up.
And then there's the Karamban.
This is massive. It's a new 33-kilometer tunnel, and the travel time cut here is wild.
Okay, how wild?
Grays to Klagenfurt used to take 2 hours. Now,
what's the new time?
45 minutes.
That changes everything. That turns a road trip into a commute.
It does. It makes sustainable travel faster than driving, and that is the tipping point.
People will choose the green option when it is also the convenient option.
Always.
So let's zoom out and try to synthesize this. We've gone from high-tech AI anxiety to eating nettle seeds in the woods.
From a budget crisis in Vienna that's pushing for luxury tourism.
To a room full of people named Balázs just happy to be together.
It's a complex picture.
Yeah.
But the core theme of this new tourism is conscious choices. It's about choosing a train over a car, not just to be nice, but because it's better.
It's about choosing a high-value cultural experience over a cheap souvenir.
And it's about choosing to see the overview effect, that big picture, even in our daily travels.
It feels like we are at a crossroads where travel is becoming less about going somewhere and more about being someone while you're there. Whether that's a cyclist, a forest forager, or just a more thoughtful human being.
Well said. It's a move from consumption to participation.
I want to leave you with one final thought, inspired by the Kovács-Balázs phenomenon. We spend so much time worrying about AI taking our jobs and automation running the world. But maybe the future of travel isn't about escaping reality. Maybe the future of travel is simply finding increasingly creative excuses to just be in the same room with other humans.
That is the thought worth holding on to.
Keep exploring the deep end, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Goodbye.